actually slowly got together.
Yeah. And we may get answers. So that is kind of the very first question is how did you get hooked up with the people that started to form the club?
Oh, let me think. Because I wasn't training a dog. At this period in my life, I was taking you, actually, to 4-H. You were taking Inca to dog training. And Inca was a tough one to do because she liked Dad better, and I can remember her barking, growling, howling, and everything else. And you stuck through it. How did I somehow met Jeannie Jones. I think I basically met her because we then got a dog for you. That's when you got Gypsy. I don't know how I got the connection there that she had a dog. And I met Jeannie Jones, who was also somewhat with Doris Rivera, although they weren't the friendliest of things. And I start talking more to Jeannie Jones, who was not a member of the club ever. But Char Francis was also a friend with Jeannie Jones. And Char Francis had gotten a dog from there, and she was looking for somebody to train with. And I'm trying to think, how did Dote Froman and Bill Collins and the Browns meet? Because I think that is one of the core that started. I could be wrong. Pat maybe have a good idea. Now I could see.
But how did you meet them?
Well, I met them because now I met Jeannie Jones. I got a puppy from them. And she knew of, trying to think how, well, she knew, as I said, Char Francis, who actually, well, she bought a shepherd from Jeannie Jones too, and she maybe was looking to train with Doris Rivera, or she might have been driving to Decatur, because Jeannie Jones would go that way. But anyway, I knew Virginia. I got to meet Char that way, and knew that there was some training going around. And she must have had some contact maybe into the Browns, Pat and Larry Brown. Who else was in sort of that group? Teppers. Teppers were training with somebody at one time. And I think somehow, and I don't know how this core got together.
And I'm less interested in you figuring out how the core got together than in figuring out when you started knowing the core. I don't care how Pat and Larry got together with Char Francis. I want to know how you got together with Pat and Larry.
It must have somehow from the people I'm speaking of, because we must have got to talking with dogs. And with Char Francis, I was getting the potato chips from her husband. They were delivered, so I had that. Yeah. Jones would probably talk to me again with Doris Rivera there, that there was this core that were thinking even then about, I think, a club. And I don't know when I came into this, except I think it was somehow through Jeannie Jones, Char Francis, maybe somebody from the 4-H group. I don't know. I don't remember that, how I found these people. Maybe, I think we put ads in the paper sometimes I know we did for classes, and maybe we put
but that was after the club had formed.
No, yeah, it had to be, because
So what I remember, we got Gypsy from Jeannie Jones, and
We used to go to Decatur for summer.
We went to Decatur for my junior and senior years in high school. I was training novice and open in Decatur. They couldn't help me with utility. But we got connected with Pat and Larry Brown through Bill Collins.
Oh, and
I think that was 4-H, sort of, as the connection.
It could have been, because I can't remember who your various 4-H teachers were. I know that one of them was, he was in Air Force.
My 4-H teachers were always in the Air Force. It was Captain Israel.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe my sisters had different, but when I left 4-H, it was still Captain Israel from.
He was still there.
Yeah. So.
So.
I think the connection was with Ginny and Bill and Pat Brown, Bill Collins, Bill and Ginny Collins, and Ginny Jones and Pat and Larry Brown, and somehow the German Shepherd Dog Club.
Well, the German Shepherd Dog Club hadn't really even started being talked about at that time.
But that's how I met Jackie Walker.
Through the Shepherd?
Through 4-H. She was in 4-H.
Oh, 4-H.
She was also part of the Shepherd Club, and so was Carol. Her husband was a vet at the. And Pye Collins. Pye Coleman and Dan Ferguson. That was all German Shepherd connections.
German Shepherd. So it must have been this German Shepherd thing, because I never actually went with Dolores Rivera, but it was the Shepherd Club.
Yeah.
And I think
and Joan Tepper had shepherds.
Yeah, she had shepherds. And I think it was this corps, but the actual obedience club, I don't know, don't start the training in that. And I think it was just this group, that's a lot of shepherd people there, wanting to have a club that we didn't have to drive, a show that we didn't have to drive to.
Okay.
That was the biggest sort of thing.
So the folks was having a show.
One of the purpose we thought, we'd like to have a show here. Now, I know that Champaign Kennel Club at one time, I've heard, had obedience with their confirmation show. I never saw that. I don't know when that was. It was before I got into, I had dogs, but I wasn't into the training part. And so it must have been that core, and maybe sort of putting ads in. I don't know how we started that initial part, and that's what I have been thinking about. And I'm trying to figure out.
Well, you were at the first meeting.
I know it was at the first meeting. But I don't know how that first started. Maybe it was somehow ads there. Somebody put in for Dode. How did Dode get in there? I at one time I thought, well, how did Dode and Holland meet? And I thought, well, really, they probably were judging at the same
But they
show.
also both lived in Farmer City.
Yeah, I think they looked at the catalog and saw another judge from Canada's Farmer City. So that's how they got going. And the Browns came in there earlier, in there. And I think it was the core, exactly how that tiny core got together. Pat Brown might know that much better. And yes, I was at the first meeting. I remember that, because we had been training quite a bit like that. And one of the things where Shar entered into it, lo and behold, they had a small warehouse. And so in winter, we start having the classes there. Again, it wasn't actually a club at that time. It was just the same group slowly getting more and more people together. And we didn't have many people training. We could have had a dozen by then, maybe just hearsay. And the space was small. The space we had to train in, her quote training space was smaller than one of the rings in our present club. So we were speaking of a very small area, and that we would go to in the winter, bad weather. And then we were out at Farmer City quite a bit. We were at Lake of the Woods sometimes. and here, there, and everywhere. But as we were going around this and starting to train in other places, I think by then we had that first meeting, and I think it was, again, just these people talking together about a club, one for, and it was always for not training classes, but to have a show, an actual obedience trial. And that was our aim from the start. And Dode came in there very handily because she had helped some club near Rockford form a club. And so she knew the steps. And she was able to say, okay, this is what they're going to ask you to do, this, that, and the other thing, and membership and all this kind of stuff. You had to go through quite a bit of red tape. And at one time, we can remember that they were sort of against us becoming a club because we had a high turnover of people who were, quote, now signing up to be members. And we had to convince them that Champaign-Urbana has a high turnover of people. And they just didn't believe it. But when you think of the university year, there's your turnover. Because we had a lot of students, grad students, some undergrad students, and then new faculty members coming in. So this is where the core started coming of our people who had dogs and wanted to train, either hadn't heard of Doris, didn't want to drive to Decatur, where there were classes. So there's this thing, I don't remember the exact thing and how it got going.
Okay. So how did you get involved?
From taking you to 4-H.
But then you became involved independently. How did you get involved?
When I had a dog to train. I had never trained a dog before that. Shauna was never taking the classes. I remember you wanted to take Shauna, and she was older then, and I said, no, you should take Inca. And Inca was a pill. She wasn't vicious or anything like that, but she was very vocal, because she liked Dick better than anybody. And that's the one you grit your teeth through and train. And then when you wanted to train a dog yourself, we had the one Mike that you were training for Gene and I, the leader dog thing. And he did not make it. And I didn't like his temperament, so I did not request to have him sent back. But I promised to get you a dog, and by then I had met Jenny. I think we boarded dogs there. I think that's how it went.
I thought you did leather work with her.
I also did that after meeting her.
Oh, okay.
And I'm thinking now, Shauna, I think we bred Shauna once.
Yeah, twice.
I don't know if you bred her once.
You bred her twice.
Because but I know one time, and I think from an ad in the paper is Jenny Jones came to see. I think that's where the initial contact with her, and she had then some of the contact with the other people, because she herself was already into obedience by then. So I think Lexi was the first dog I've ever trained. I was taking Yoon and
where did you start training her? What classes?
I think it was to our
with Dode.
Yeah, with
Okay.
Dode.
All
It was with Dode. I had heard of it, and I think at this stage there was this group, the core, starting to come. It was before the membership meeting.
So what are some of your early memories of the club?
Early memory. Okay, our monthly meetings was always elsewhere, always in somebody's house, and we rotated. Having to look for a new place to train about every session. In fact, once we had to find a new place in the middle of a section. Driving to Myers to print the monthly newsletter.
Oh.
Going there, because I was doing that. A group of people, and all of them with various dogs, and their aim for most of them was to get into a trial. It wasn't just for I want a well-behaved dog, but we had some of those, but they were definitely interested in a club that gave trial. And that was one of our set goals, and we, as I said, had to find our way through that all the time. And that's where Dove really and truly, having the experience, she could go through and say, okay, this, and that. And then the type of matches we had to give. We could give as many B matches as you wanted, and that's where we actually made the money. And at those, you could correct your dog and do stuff. But an A match had to be run like a trial, to making the catalog and printing out the stuff, and in fact actually sending that information, who entered, who showed, how they were graded, and send that all to ATC. They had to know that we could have a match. And they may have at some of that stage send a judge to watch, I don't know, at that part of it. So it was just a matter of weekly going to training class, doing some on your own, and slowly building up that way with the experience of some of the people who had been in it. And of course, Dode was the one, she was working. I don't think she had her utility judging yet at that time. Giving the guidance of that with all her years of training that she had done with various breeds and clubs. And so she was the one feeding the information to us.
What's your favorite thing about the club?
I think it's the friend you make, talking about the problems, stuff like that. Encouraging them when, especially if they're having a little bit of a difficult dog or something like that. Joining together sometimes to travel to a club and stuff. Working at the trial, getting mad at some people who don't volunteer times and stuff like that. I think it was actually working with the club and stuff like that. And of course, we didn't have a building to take care of at that time, but just to get together and stuff like that.
So the relationships with...
It was the relationships, yeah. And then seeing the various breeds, the differences in breeds and stuff, how they learn. I can remember telling Bella, she was in my beginning class one time, and she had a border collie. And up to that point, the standard poodle was the smartest dog I had ever seen. We had a few of them, and they seemed to catch on quickly. And I can remember telling the people, a lot of the people, especially smaller dogs I've never trained before, want to walk slowly at your heel, and you keep telling, get moving, get moving, get moving. And I remember Lisa Pellin in there, and she knew I wanted that. And the next thing I knew, she started going faster. And of course, the border collie was more willing to go faster, and she was running. And I said, whoa. And she said, well, you said faster. I said, but the dog is leading you right now. So that's one of my funniest things. I can still remember her starting to run and the dog going faster and faster. And realizing then that border collies do pick it up quickly and stuff like that. Being a little bit worried sometimes with some dogs, you would tell your assistant on the figure 8, don't put these two together. And the people willing to learn things and work on stuff, and working on it because they were getting someplace. That's why that one, I don't know, a few months back where I saw them doing the graduation, and I was thinking a few of those, I wouldn't have passed those dogs that night. I would have been more critical on that. But it was just that type of thing. And then actually, since we were doing matches, and well, we were asked to judge a few of the 4-H things like local and that, just meeting people actually from the various 4-H groups around, just locally. And then also it led to the state fair, and I can still remember the very first time we were at the state fair. Of course, they always did the obedience at the last day when they were emptying out the animals. It's being there in the stands, watching the dogs on the outside, sits and downs, while they were getting the pigs and the sheep out of the same building that they were in. And the dogs did not break. And I thought, damn it, those city dogs can do it too. And sitting behind, it was 3 or 4 farmers. And when they saw the such a downstay, when they first saw him, they walked away and he said, huh. And then when the kids left, them saying, oh boy, are we gonna see them break? We're gonna see a dog fight. I was sitting behind them and I said, no, you won't. And they turned around and looked at me. I said, they're trained to stay. And so then they watched, and when it was over, where do we find the information that we can get into this too? It was just things like that, the contact with the dog people. I think they're a nice group of people.
Okay, thank you very much.
Do you have a funny memory? You gave several funny memories, actually, so.
Anything
I
stick out in your
didn't
head?
ask the question, but.
Well, the funniest memory I have, and I still giggle at it, I think I've mentioned it to you, and it involves me more, although it was for a tracking test. I was track leader. And it was at Kennecock. No. No, it was at Middleford. And it was a TDX track. And I'm going and laying it. And okay, that is land they're changing from farmland to prairie land.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a ditch. I'm going, plop. I fell in it, just following the judges and that. Okay, I'll mark, good marker. There's a ditch. So okay, after I had it laid, I went to walk it. And I got to remember that ditch. Well, plop, into it again. Okay, come the next day. Gotta remember that ditch. I'm laying the track. I fell on the damn thing again. And then the gal had flunked then before I got that far, but she was walking the thing now. And I said to her, be careful, there's a ditch up ahead. She made it, and I fell in the time. I hit it every time. And I think another time when it was again laying a test, and the day before, no, it was in the morning because it was, and I had to do it like to the east, and I turned the corner, and all I could see was the sun. I couldn't see a damn thing. I couldn't see my marks or anything. It was like, okay. Sort of hoped and maybe looked close, and I managed to get that leg done, and I was good at it. Maybe I was catching a little bit of the path from the day before, but it was things like that that got you funny. It was the joke about the time when the track day, when the people came for the test, and the first track, this was at Middleford, and they said to the first one, okay, your flag's there. We had put it on the island in the middle of the pond. So it shocked her and other people. So it was sometimes some of those funny things that we did, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was then the way people were willing to help if things or maybe try this and stuff like that. There was a certain camaraderie there. Everyone had the same goal. We want a successful test. We wanted a successful club. And working for that purpose. And no.
Okay.
I think one of the shows I never liked to steward at was the one that was in the in Danville, in the where they had the ice
Civic Center. Yeah.
You feet got so damn cold. Yeah, that's what I didn't like. So
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.